Peace to the gods, peace to the gods. Wait for all y'all to get in. How many people got in? Just one. I'm gonna wait. We'll talk a little bit about some old school information. I want to talk about acceptance for value. How everybody got away from that, you know, like I've been in this space a long time, and I've watched it go through a lot of different iterations, and new gurus come and go, and processes come and go, processes get remixed and come and go. And one of them that I think that that needs to be brought back is acceptance for value. You know, I noticed that in this space that word is not being tossed around the way that it used to be. And acceptance for value, there is no term, there's no legal term called acceptance for value. There's a legal term called acceptance for honor. You can look that up, but there's no legal term, but acceptance and value are two separate, distinct terms. And the more that I studied this over the years, the more that I began to understand what an acceptance is. What's going on? Yeah, I've been getting the exercise in. I've been doing 10 miles a day. Weight melting off slowly, but it's coming off. Ties the contract to the equity. I like that. I like that. The equity jurisdiction. Well, contracts are already adjudicated in equity jurisdiction, really, though. You won't be technical about it. Let me sit over here for a second. Yeah, I think it's a chill spot right here. Definitely chill. Okay. Look like you're in Dallas. No, I'm not in Dallas. Good morning, peace to the gods. And I was talking about acceptance for value. You know, when I first came into this space, that's what everybody was on the acceptance for value. You know, the 45-degree angle stamp, the red stamp, put your social security number on there without dashes. And some different, you know, people would have their own type of verbiage. But the acceptance for value, if you think about it, it makes the most sense, because when you're in negotiable instruments, everything is about value, because the underlying value of the instrument is the collateral that is supporting it. So that's the value. And that is usually some sort of arbitrary and capricious type of matter, you know, because like a house is valued at whatever anybody agrees on. Same thing with a car. You know, what is value? How do we determine what value is? So when you come in and you say, I accept for value, that was usually geared more toward criminal cases. In situations where you knew what the amount was, it wasn't acceptance for value. It was acceptance for assessed value. Acceptance for assessed value. The value had been assessed. We know what the amount is. So we have two things. We have acceptance for assessed value, and then we have acceptance for value. And acceptance for value is in a situation like in a criminal case, you don't know what the value of the case is. They haven't told you. Now you can always ask them what the value of the case is by going in and saying, yeah, and I direct that the Honorable Judge. Well, first you might want to start off by asking, does anyone have a claim against you? Because if they say yes, then now we're talking about something related to money. And you can die if they make the mistake and say yes, because sometimes they'll say yes, state of Texas has a claim against you. Then you can sit there and say, you know, I request that the honorable judge direct the prosecutor to provide the assessment for the charges. And then they'll kind of probably bring a bill of indictment over or something like that, put it in front of you. You look at both sides, you say, I see no charges, Your Honor. I request that the honorable judge direct the prosecutor to read the charges into the record. And then he's probably not, they're going to be really reluctant to do that because that establishes liability. But some of them will do it. And once they do it, you simply say, I accept the value in return for value, all the charging instruments in this matter, and then make my exemption as principal available for discharge of all obligations and charges connected with this case. I'm not going to dispute any of the facts contained in the charging instrument, Your Honor. Just use my exemption for offset and adjustment of the public charges against the defendant and release the order of the court to me immediately. See, this is addressing it like it is a commercial matter, which they don't want to do that because there isn't any money. All right. So it's an easy out for you. So you have to understand why is it they don't want to accept that. All right. Because that's what they say. It seems that you understand this is a civil matter. You mistakenly believe that this is a civil matter. Okay. Well, you know, you might be right. You know, is this civil or criminal? No, well, this is a criminal matter. Okay. Thank you. Let the record reflect that the action being brought against the defendant is a criminal matter. Now, the Constitution for the United States of America only grants you two criminal jurisdictions. One is under the common law, and the other constitutes a condition of contract under criminal aspects of a colorable admiralty jurisdiction. Now, for the record, sir, tell me under which two of these jurisdictions are you trying? Because it's not common law. It's admiralty. Admiralty has a criminal aspect to it that is civil in nature, okay, which means there's some sort of monetary issue behind the scenes. This is where the bond comes in. When you come in, you're asking them for the bid bond. That's the value of the case that you're asking them for. You say, can I get the bid bond? You know, these are questions that you can ask them. You'll see if they're telling the truth. And let me tell you why you can ask these questions. Because they cannot lie. They do a lot of things. They don't lie. Okay. In their world, lying is fatal. But they have rules about lying. All right, you know, they have what's called, you know, you have to. It's called perjury. So, if they're not under oath, they're not lying. They're just making a hearsay statement. In their world, they can say anything they want to you or about anything, and if it's not under oath, it's just a hearsay statement. So you can't. You got to take everything they say, you know, with a grain of salt. You know, if it's not under oath. Are there any videos of you in action in court? I'm getting, no, there's no videos of me in action. I've been doing this 20 years. When I first started doing this, there was no social media. We weren't doing all of this. I tell people that all the time. If I get a chance to go back in court, I'll videotape it. But one of the rules is stay out of court. And I tend to follow my own rules, and you be wise to stay out of court too. There are 4 rules to this game. There's now if you get arrested, you can't help but do that. I'm telling you stuff to help you if you get arrested.
No, buddy. Stop.
But I did this, and I've been doing this ever since, man, early in the 2000s. There was no YouTube and all that shit. All this shit, this bullshit y'all doing, grandstanding for views and stuff like that, that wasn't even a part of our world when we were doing this. You're not even supposed to be in court even really putting it on the public record like that. If you want me to be technical about it, you're supposed to be doing it in such a way you don't alert the public. But y'all got away from all of those rules. You're looking for evidence you can put into the public. You're looking for private processes to be put into the public, which is why 98% of y'all fail and y'all don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Y'all don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing, man. This is private process. You're looking to make a public record of a private. Y'all actually think in your minds that they're going to let you record something where you're winning with a process so you can spread it and put it on the internet and show other people. You got to be the dumbest motherfucker on planet Earth. Y'all don't have no common sense. That's another thing that I see in these spaces. There's no common sense. Well, I mean, you could call me a liar, but, you know, I'm just telling the truth. I've been doing this 20 years, bro. You can come better than that. And people made whole videos about me. I'm still here. So it's not about winning the case. It's not about winning. It's about win-win. Something else that y'all don't understand. It's not about winning the case. That's what acceptance for value is. It's called in common law confession and avoidance. That's what it's called in common law. But in this era, it's called acceptance for value. And yes, I got myself out. So use of, yeah, I was on Channel 2. Yeah, I was on Channel 2 News with Jody Fleischer. I got interviewed. That was about in 2000 and, I don't know, was it 2009, 2010? Somewhere in that area when I got interviewed by Jody Fleischer. I was discharging mortgages. Had like 17 houses. Article's still on the internet. It's still on the internet. Can you explain the letter of rogatory and how it's used? You know, don't call it a rogatory, because the letter of rogatory is an instruction from one court to another court. And unless you understand that as a private individual, that court is held on paper and you're your own court, because you're foreign, you're supposed to be foreign to their jurisdiction, using the term letter of rogatory is going to confuse a lot of people, because they're going to look up that word and not understand what it's talking about. What you have to do is you have to put up what is called call it a attorney letter of instruction. Attorney letter of instruction. Hey Roscoe, I'll prove it to you. You want to meet me somewhere? I'm gonna meet you. I tell you what, I'm in Atlanta. Tell me where you want to meet. I'll bring you all the proof you want. And if you don't want to meet me nowhere, then shut the fuck up. Now, do you want to meet somewhere? You want to meet me somewhere? Because I want you to say what you're saying to my face. All right, so if you don't want to meet nowhere, then shut the fuck up. Oh, bitch ass nigga. All right, shut your pussy ass up. Now, do you want to meet somewhere? You want to meet somewhere? Pussy nigga. Let this dumb motherfucker in the comment section ask me, do I got a law degree? Y'all people are so fucking stupid. Why would you think I got a law degree? We talking about private processes, dumbass. Roscoe, do you want to meet somewhere? Because you called me a liar. I want to see if you're going to say that to my face. I just want to see if you man enough to say that shit to my face. I just want to, okay, where you want to meet at? Where you want to meet at? Where you want to meet? You put that shit in all caps like your nuts is dragging on the ground. So where you want to meet at? Where you want to meet at? Nah, fuck this nigga, man. Okay, well, where you want to meet at? Now I'm a bitch. So now we really got to meet. So where you want, tell me where your Instagram at? Watch this old pussy ass nigga. He don't tell me where I'm at your mom's. He ain't gonna tell me where his Instagram is at. Let me get you off. You ain't gonna do nothing. You ain't popping nothing. Start saying shit like that. Let me go to somebody else. He ain't gonna do nothing, y'all. He's just sitting there talking and shit. I wanted to see if he was gonna do something. I want somebody to start trolling and shit. I know he won't me. He a coward. Cause see, they pop all that shit on the keyboard. You don't know who they are. So that's why I say, you want to meet? Show, where's your Facebook? Where's your Instagram? You know, direct me to somewhere where I can find out who you are. Cause see, they like to throw. Let me tell y'all. Let me give y'all a bit of advice, all you future gurus. When you're dealing with certain trolls, they do behind the scenes. Cause if you get to get their information, you get to dig into who they are. And then when you start digging into their life and find out who they are, you know, they ain't much they can say, because they got some weirdo shit going on. Like Roscoe, he probably like little boys or some shit like that. When you find out that shit, because that's what he pissed off about. A lot of them don't like me because of some of the shit I say. So, you know what I'm saying? So he probably like little boys or something. You start going and, you know, digging in this nigga past. You find out this old weirdo ass motherfucker, you know. But that's why they throw rocks behind fake profiles. They ain't gonna let you know who they are. I know he's not worth it. I was just making a point right now. That's why I asked him, you know, we want to meet somewhere. I ain't gonna meet nowhere. The real niggas don't come on people channels and do shit like that. You know, real nigga coming on no channel fucking with a nigga. There's only little bitch ass keyboard niggas be doing that shit. Say apparently courts have to file these forms, MSD 4U, U4, GFIN, for securities. Okay. Yeah, attorney letter of instruction. So it's called an attorney letter of instruction. All right. And all you're doing is, let me tell you what it has to incorporate. Okay. First of all, you're informing the attorney. You can use the verbiage out of Rule 24, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, third party intervener. You're letting them know that you have an interest in the matter and that you're intervening because the representation is not adequate enough to protect your interest, what you have. Your interest is in the estate, which is the straw man, juristic persona, whatever you want to call it, from them attaching that estate. All right. You want to put a notice in that you already have, and all of this is just rules of commerce. If, first in line, first in time. If somebody's trying to put a lien on something, they can't be first in line if there's already a lien on it. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you don't want him arguing any facts. When you argue facts, that's called a traverse. You got to stay away from arguing facts. You got to stay away from arguing facts, all right? Because arguing facts sends you into trial. You're going to go into jury trial or a bench trial. That's the number one thing you got to avoid. And that's how you trip them up, by not arguing any facts. Every time you come into the courtroom, you got to reiterate, I'm not arguing any facts, Sean. I'm trying to establish this. And make sure there's a court reporter in the courtroom, and you got to, just highlight that fact. I'm not here to argue facts as they relate to this matter. Now, really, to tell you the truth, that's why you do an administrative process prior to going to court, because the administrative process is supposed to establish what the facts are before you get to court. I've been trying to log in for 2 weeks. Can anybody point me other service? I will, and then people do that shit. He ain't been trying to log in 2 weeks. Nigga, stop lying. He ain't been trying to log in for no 2 weeks. That's another thing. I know y'all be trying to slander my business and shit too, that bullshit. You ain't been trying to log in for no 2 weeks. How you trying to log? So you signed up 2 weeks ago and automatically after you signed up, you couldn't log in? You was a dumbass nigga. You just signed up, and right after you signed up, you can't log in for 2 weeks. Because the only people couldn't log in were people I migrated over. So you signed up for my website, you can't log in. And then you see the customer service button right there in the corner. But you're going to come over here and post something, but you ain't, but you don't try to talk to the customer service. Where's my customer service agent's name? Because the name is written right there on the thing. They don't even know. So don't sit here and post that here. I got a whole customer service. I pay this girl some good money to answer questions and help people get logged in. So, I need to stop doing that shit. Can you clarify for me diplomatic immunity? I don't need to clarify anything because y'all know, and none of y'all got no diplomatic immunity. I don't teach diplomatic immunity. I teach secure party. So I don't know what you want clarification on diplomatic immunity from me from. 'Cause I don't, what do you want it from me for? I know. They come over here. Y'all gotta understand, man. These people be in the comment section. They just be trying to slander and shit. They trolls. They trolls, man. They are trolls. They do anything. I can't log in. They just do anything. They pick at your business, and they do it behind fake profiles. Because they'll say, "Well, I can't log in," but they don't give you their username. They don't give you any information. Like, okay, you just said you can't log in. I don't know who the fuck you are behind a fake profile. How are we supposed to help you? You didn't give my username, your phone number, your email address, or nothing. How are we supposed to help you? He said, what is the best way to contact you? On my website, get your consultation. Bro, trolls make your channel grow. They do make the channel grow. They do make the channel grow. Now, I ain't gonna lie for that. They kick up your analytics. Like you ain't asked me for 20 yesterday. Like you ain't asked me for 20 yesterday. Like you ain't asked me for 20 yesterday. Like you didn't ask, I don't know what he talking about. I don't even know who that is. Oh, broke ass. Oh, you talking about me? Oh, okay. I asked you for $20? Yeah, I must have been broke. I asked you for $20. So you said to send an administrative process to the court before you go? Well, yeah, you're supposed to have a certificate of non-response. The certificate of non-response, that's Zuri, that is a name, yes. A certificate of non-response Yeah, so you put questions to her, and if she can't do something, she'll contact me. If she is something she can't take care of, she'll contact me. What is your top three books to develop a solid understanding? Um, I mean, to me, there's not one particular book I read to get a solid understanding. I can only go by what I did. I read. I got a video on this channel that says how I started. Usabel, how I started. And I list all the books I read that I started. But I would say that the book that helped me the most, the two books that helped me the most was the Black's Law Dictionary and American Jurisprudence. What guided me on what to research was Cracking the Code, 10th edition, um, creditors and their bonds, dealing with presentments, um, Gene Keating prison treaties, Gene Keating transcript, um, One Man Out definitely helped me a lot. One Man Out, because One Man Out had all the documents. One Man Out is not really a book; it's just a book of everything he filed to get out of prison. So he put all his court paperwork, his administrative process, his secure party process, his habeas corpus, all his filings, everything he did, he put it in a book form. That helped me tremendously with my studies too, because well, first of all, it helps you get the right mindset, because in the beginning of the book, it talks about how this is not an easy process and you're going to have to do a lot of reading and study. That was the first thing. So that's the first thing that you got to get in your mind, is the mindset that you have to have. The next thing is that and like, you got to understand is like, the best thing for you to do is to learn how to file your own paperwork. Okay. If you still got to copy somebody else's paperwork, you're really not ready. You're ready when you get to the point where you can sit down at a computer, and even if you got to take stuff from other people's, like you might like a paragraph in somebody else's process, like I like this paragraph, and you take it, and I like this paragraph over here. Even if you want to piecemeal something together from other people's processes, and then run it through Chat GPT and say, rewrite this professionally, and then have something, like that is on your own. Have something on your own that is kind of like a result of the energy that you placed into it, and it properly zeroed in on everything that you wanted to stress. That would be the most ideal thing to do, and that's what you'll start to learn as you do this more and more and more. You'll start to learn that. I appreciate the $9.99 XP Ventures. Appreciate that. How to write without sounding like an argument. Do I just ask questions? What's the tripping? Well, I mean, it's like when you're doing an administrative process, you're not asking any questions. You're doing an acceptance, or maybe you are inquiring about something. But if you're doing a discharge, you're doing an acceptance. You're not inquiring about anything. You start doing an inquiry, like when you do your notice of default and opportunity to cure. But I mean, yeah, how you gotta, without arguing, is you asking questions all the time. That's definitely it. How to write. Even in court, you asking questions, because everything they do is vague. Look at all the words in the law dictionary, and how they all have multiple definitions. If they say, I'm going to charge you with something, do you really know what they mean when they say that? You don't even really know what they mean. You assume you know what they mean. So anything they say to you, you could you could ask for further clarification because you don't know what they're saying. You don't know. Liability avoidance. Is Gene Keating still alive? I have no idea. I would be surprised if he is. Gene Keating was getting up there in age. But last time I heard he was still alive. Every time somebody thinks he's passed away, I get some reports that he's even still teaching. So I don't know if he is or not. Gene passed on. As he passed on, I know he was getting up there in age. I wouldn't be surprised if he passed on. You know, if any information you can get from him, I would advise you to read. Definitely, he was definitely a big contributor to this space. I'm at the beginning of his private journey. I was told that SPC and non-citizen state nationals is not the way to go. I was told to change my state to a foreigner and pick a country. Is that true? Well, I mean, it's whatever's true for you. Because what do you mean you're going to pick a state and be a foreigner for what? I mean, see, I'm going to tell you what that sounds like, what you just said. That sounds like somebody's mixing in some trust information with status correction and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. See, the status for a trust, you can pick whatever country you want or whatever jurisdiction. That's what status means, jurisdiction. Foreigner and private mean the same fucking thing. It just means without the jurisdiction of the United States. Okay, so as far as SPC, I go back and ask them to teach you what SPC is about. If they don't understand what it's about, tell them to shut the fuck up. Why are you listening to somebody tell you something is not the way to go and they don't know the process? That's what, every time I hear somebody say that, they don't know, because it take a long time to learn it. So that would be the first thing I say. Oh, so that's not the way to go. So you understand it? Explain it to me real quick. What is it about? Bring them to me and let me ask them, because they'll just tell you some bullshit. But I can ask them 2-3 questions, and 90% of the time when it's somebody saying that's not the way to go, they don't know it. Because if you understood it and you understood the system, you would never say that. I'm gonna tell you, it's absolutely the way to go, and the way they telling you the way to go is the bullshit way. Let me just say that. I'll go on and say that. You can bring them over here, and I will summarily clown them. Whoever told you that. You can bring them over, and I'll put them on the screen and summarily clown them just for saying some dumb shit like that. And I'm saving this video. You can go and give it to them and tell them I said it. I'm trying to learn, but all the profanity is too much. Who said anything about profanity? Okay, well, if it's too profanity, let me get you out of here, and you know it's bothering you. I ain't even said a single cuss word. Why don't you shut up? They talking about building my nation. Ask him, did he get his cars and house using A for B? I do got a house using for A for B, and I got a that I got right now, that I Airbnb. I most certainly do. And I have I got myself out of prison. Cars, you should not A for V. If you were following me, you would know, because I've been saying that for like 10 years. So you obviously don't follow me. Because, you know, even in cracking a code, it tells you that 10th edition. So you don't read shit and you don't follow me. So, and because you would also know that I've always said I got a house and everything A for V. But A for V, it was never my intent, because I've always made money. So I ain't never came in with a poverty mindset like some of you do, try to A for V everything. I've always had money. The A for V I use to get yourself out of criminal cases, which is what I came on the scene talking about. Getting yourself, that's what it's really for, to get yourself out of jail or keep yourself out of trouble, not to be trying to get a whole bunch of free shit. If you just broke, say so. You broke, you know what I'm saying? Y'all act like the ultimate test of it, whether or not this is real, is if you can get a car or a house. And you're dealing with other private people where, first of all, an auto dealership is under no responsibility to accept anything for you. The only people who can accept for value or accept acceptance for value is the government. If you would take the time to read HCR 192, which none of you do, or go to Title 131.5118, rescission of the gold clause, you would see this. I had somebody say, you know, HCR don't exist. Well, what is Title 31.5118? HCR is just a declaration. It got codified in a statute. This is these dudes. They don't know what the fuck they be talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. You can get a vehicle if you operate in trust again. It's a process you must read. No, you can't. Listen, you can get a vehicle if they will. You can get a vehicle if they will take your instrument and apply it as a credit on an account. That's the only way you're going to get a vehicle. All this trust shit that y'all talking about, y'all know what the fuck y'all act like a trust is some type of special thing. I can tell like none of you know anything about trust. You don't know anything about this stuff. Y'all just use that word. What do you think using a trust is supposed to do as far as getting you a vehicle? Somebody explain to me the technical aspects of utilizing a trust to get a vehicle. How did getting a trust change the dynamic of the transaction in some kind of way, where the trust in some kind of way gave you more authority to set off a debt in some kind of way? I'm not understanding it. And I know trust. I teach it. I ain't understanding it. What it is. And all you people that's coming on the channel new, saying dumb shit, why don't you go and research me and do your due diligence first before you come over here saying dumbass sovereign citizen shit. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It just demonstrates to me how just how unintelligent you are. And the people talking about I using the profanity, I've been using profanity for fucking 15 years. Get the fuck off my channel. All right, I don't give a fuck if you don't like profanity. Get the fuck off my channel. Get your stupid ass off my channel. If you can't weather the storm and find out something that's going to be beneficial to you, I don't know what to tell you. No corporation takes A for V payment. That's because it's not a payment, first of all, and they're not supposed to take a payment. It's a set off. So you using the word payment gonna get you arrested. That's gonna get you arrested. Seminar ATL, we need ASAP. Tell me a life story. I don't have no more life stories. I'm good. I don't like stories. It's called discharge of a contract. Did you hear J.D. Vance give his speech and use sovereign citizen verbiage? Nah, I didn't hear it. Set off remittance and it works. Yeah, everything works. Listen, I've seen everything work and everything not work. I seen when they were doing the money orders work for a little while, bill of exchange work, promissory notes work, bonds work, warrant checks work. Dudes that did warrant checks. I've seen everything work, and I've seen a lot of shit not work. I mean, that's another thing. Y'all looking for some sort of process that work consistently for everybody every time. You're never gonna find that. You're never going to find that. There's no process that works consistently every time for everybody, because you're dealing with different jurisdictions, different individuals, different judges, different corporations, different law firms, different individuals with different levels of understanding. And also, they're going to take you through different hurdles to get whatever use you want to get. If you're thinking that you're going to find just one process that works, all I'm here to do is just give y'all the insight on some information. All the trolls in the comments section, you can shut the fuck up. You just shut the fuck up. You're not killing this, y'all. Why do y'all come over here be trying to kill this information? Y'all ain't been able to do it in 35 years. Y'all look ridiculous. You ain't been able to do it. You know why you ain't been able to do it? Because people have been getting cars. People have been getting houses. People have been getting out of jail. That's why. People go into court, they find the shit is real. I really don't give a fuck about getting a house and a car. I don't teach that at SBC University, all right? So you don't need to bring the house and car shit over here, all right? You try to discharge a car, most likely your car is going to get repossessed, because it's a totally different matter when you're dealing with a car as opposed to a house, because possession is with possession of the title. Perfected interest in title is the possession of the title, the certificate of title. So you're dealing with a different type of situation, as well as the fact they can pick up the car if they deem that their interest in the collateral is in jeopardy in some kind of way, which could be any reason. They have what is called confessed judgment in the contract, and they can come and get the car. It's harder to do a house, because a house, they got to take you through a whole bunch of judicial processes to get the house. And you can sue them before they can get through all of that. They can't take a house without breaching the peace. They can take a car without breaching the peace easier, but you driving it around is going to make it easier to target it and do that. So basically, if you have to sue any part of the government, no other part will step up and hold them accountable. Yeah, that's what Article 3 is for. What are you talking about? That's what the Article 3 judges are for. Will AI replace all humans? Why would AI replace all humans? I think it's going to be a lot of y'all job. They're going to replace a lot of humans on their job. Yeah, that's already happening. I'm sitting here right now watching all these little carless, driverless cars drive around. What y'all not seeing? I was told when I first heard about the journey overall, they said once too many people start doing the same thing to change the processes, it does. Some things, listen, you know what the hardest thing with all this, the hardest thing with all of this is the common sense aspect of it. That's the hardest thing with all this is the common sense aspect of it. Because like when people come in through the door, like the trolls that was in there, ask if he bought a car and a house, and this all this little basic ass. That's what the majority of the people are attracted to the information for. They're trying to get a house, a car, or they got some kind of criminal thing that they're going through. So when you come through the door, they're trying to measure everything like that. Did you get a car? Did you get a house? Did you get a car and a house? You got a car and a house. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the only thing these processes are for. And that's not what it's for. What it really is for when you leaving the public and you going into the private and you discharge all your public debts. But y'all try to live off the shit. Like, it's like, I'm going to just keep buying shit and discharging it and live off of it. And it wasn't made for that. Because you're not supposed to be creating debt to discharge. You're not supposed to be creating debt. You're supposed to be discharging the debt or setting off the debt. But you want to set it off and create some more. So that's not what it's for. It's a public and a private, and they don't mix. It's a public and a private, and and that's why tell you the truth, I'm trying to get into like dealing with trust, because the people that are in this space, it didn't grew to a point that I got like 35,000 members in my Facebook group. The shit they be talking about in there is just ain't nobody reading. Everybody just regurgitating, passing around bad information. Nobody studies the subject of trust. Nobody. They just use the word. You can get you a trust and you can discharge that. And I'm like, you put it in your trust, and they just use, they use these words. I'm like, do you know what you're saying? Since I tried suing a healthcare provider for violating service animal customs, and nobody from the government wanted to be a witness because the defendant received federal funding. That could be true. I mean, that could be true. I mean, you have to hit them with a tort. Trying something for free is for the broke. I'm trying to stop this bullshit. $1,200 a month for one child. Yeah, you gotta ignore your broke people, man. They try to shame you and shit. Oh, you charging for information? Like, listen, nobody's charging for information. Everything you want to know is already on the internet for free. I done said that over and over. Everything you want to know, every document. There's plenty. Dudes done wrote so much information on this shit. Why would you ain't got to pay for information. But what you're going to pay for is understanding. What you're going to pay for is to sit in front of somebody and let them explain this to you. If you think somebody's just going to explain that shit to you free, so you can turn around and go sell it to somebody, that's what a lot of people do. They want to get it to you from free and then turn around and go sell it to somebody. I went to the library and got a trust book. I read it, mind-blowing manual. What did you learn? No agency was responding to my records. They don't respond. What are you talking about? Yeah, let me ask you a question. Y'all don't understand that when you do an administrative process, they're not going to respond? Oh my God. Who teaching y'all? Listening and read long enough at it opens up for real. It does. Peace, God. I really enjoy your natural law hour streams and idea. I was planning on doing one today. Can you please explain securities? How is everything a security? You can leave a visual example. Everything's security because the security is something that is supporting an obligation. That if you get delinquent on it, that they can go and seize. Everything is security. I mean, a house is a security. A car can be a security. Like you got secured credit cards and unsecured credit cards. Secured credit card is when you have to give them some money. Unsecured when you didn't give any money. A security, anything that you give is some sort of collateral in exchange for some sort of performance on an obligation. That's all it is, I said, you want to borrow $500 from me? I said, okay, give me a promissory note and give me, let me hold one of your rings as collateral. As security. So if you pay me back, I'll give you your ring back. You don't pay me back, I take the ring. That's security. I remember SBC University and the trust law and case law I'm learning, and this is amazing. He deserves to be paid. He worked hard on the school. I appreciate that, man. The law of trust, the context approach from cover Margate Gillen. Okay, all right, looks good. We dealing with private irrevocable trust, though. That's a different subject altogether. See, you can study the subject of trust, but when you start getting into like irrevocable versus revocable and private versus statutory, that's where you're going to have to start kind of understanding there's some differences and doing a business with a trust as opposed to just using a trust for holding property. Those are two different entities too. You create your own record by using the administrative process. If they don't respond under penalty of perjury in a point-by-point basis to your questions, you can get a default judgment. Exactly. That's good. Why do you teach administrative process if you know they won't respond? Because, okay. Well, I guess that's an innocent question. I ain't gonna clown you. They have never responded to anybody's administrative process. You do them because silence is acquiescence. They can't swear to anything under penalty of perjury because there isn't any money. Did they make a loan? No, they didn't make a loan. There ain't any money. They can't say they made a loan. There's no money. So that's why they remain silent. The silence is acquiescence. It's a principle of law. That's why you have a notary certify the silence, and then you put that on the record. Now we have an agreement of the facts through silence. Okay, if you're doing an administrative process, you don't know that. I don't understand how you don't know that. And nobody taught. It seemed like that would be the first thing when you are learning how to do an administrative process that somebody would be teaching you, is that you're trying to get a default judgment through silence is acquiescence. That's usually the first thing you learn. Like they got in Georgia, put in OCGA, failure to answer a business letter. That's in Georgia. They got the silence is acquiescence principle. Put in Google OCGA dash failure to answer a business letter and read that code section and tell me, isn't that what you're doing with the administrative process? It says the state treasury is the custodian of your minor account. I don't like that word minor account. That's some shit y'all made up. It's not no minor account, and they're not custodian of anything, and it's not a minor account. Let me tell you, let me explain this. The account is the bond that you send. This is why you have to understand banking. Your concept of banking is that they got some secret account somewhere with some money in it when there isn't any money. There's no money. There's no money. All money is created through signature. Okay. You are creating the account through your bond. The registered mail number on the bond is the account. They are the holder, and you're the holder in due course. This is what you have to understand private banking and what constitutes an account. Because your concept of an account is wrong. Y'all done came up with this word minor account, and y'all have the definition of minor incorrect. And y'all done took that based off of this Sestakay Vi Act of 1666. Don't have shit to do with us. That's over in England. That has shit to do with us, man. Y'all pull shit out of your ass. And I was around when they first pulled that shit out their ass. I was saying back then, I'm like, we'll pull this bullshit out their ass. That shit survived. They've been surviving like 10 years. It's still, people still, your Sestakay Vi Act, I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? It just be a whole bunch of conspiracy theory shit. It ain't nothing business. See, that's why a lot of them don't like me, because I'm talking business. Because you're talking about a corporation. The United States is a corporation. You say you're not driving commercially. All crimes are commercial. And the secured party is commercial. Everything I do is commercial. That's why they don't like me, because I don't be talking about all this other stupid ass shit that don't have nothing commercially related tied to it, like the talking about the Pope and all this old dumb ass shit, and I don't talk about that stupid shit. That don't have nothing to do with business, man. This all business. That's where y'all fucking up. Y'all trying to deal with corporations in a non-corporate fashion. How does that work? You don't have jurisdiction over me. You don't have jurisdiction. You're going into the corporation. They know that The straw man is their creation. They not charging you, they charging the straw man. So you come into the courtroom talking about you don't have jurisdiction over me. You saying all of this. You know, all they want to know is, okay, we got a charge on an account. All right. We just need to understand who is going to be responsible for it. Who is the creditor and who is the debtor? That's why we're here to decide. Kind of like in a foreclosure, title is not in question. We just want to know is possession. Who is entitled to possession of the premises? That's all we want to talk about. All this other shit, you're in the wrong form. You come in their form, they want to talk about this charge that is aging on their books. That's what they want to talk about. In a game of passing the buck, why people waive the attorney when that puts the liability on us? Can we put more info out on how? Well, you know, when they say you're going to waive arraignment, it's not waiving the attorney, it's waiving arraignment. When you waive arraignment, that's called a not guilty plea. You put in waiving arraignment as a not guilty plea. So you put in a not guilty plea, you traverse the charges, and then you take liability off of your attorney and place it on you. That's why they want you to plead so bad. It's called a hot potato game. You know, when the charge is first introduced, it is the prosecutor who is liable because he's the one bringing the charge. What if you didn't do anything, you know, and he put a charge on you? He's liable for something, and they arrested you, and you didn't do anything. Somebody's liable for something. That's an injury. If you get 1 second of your freedom taken away from you, that's an injury. That's an injury. All right. So that's why they have to be bonded. So once he brings the charge, the next person who gets the liability is when you hire an attorney, or you don't never want to hire an attorney either. You always want to let the court appoint you an attorney. All right. They let you appoint the attorney, you accept it, and then you give him a letter of rogatory. You can't give a letter of rogatory to a counsel you went and hired. You can only use a letter of rogatory on, you know, a public defender. That's the only thing you use it. Because when you go acquire counsel, you saying to the world that you're going to argue a case. And you don't want to argue a case. This is the worst thing you can do is argue facts. Worst thing you can do. Somebody asking me, well, show me somebody who win going there arguing facts. They got a 98.7% conviction rate. Why would you go in there and argue facts? And you got a 98.7% chance of losing. Every time somebody tell me they're going to trial, that's what I think about. I said, man, they got a 98.7% conviction rate. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I think it's higher than that. Because I haven't really seen the other 1.5% that they talking about. I met a couple of Pope people. I done got out of some I met, but I ain't seen it like 1%. In my opinion, it's like 99.5% of people lose in court. That would be my estimate. That sun started shining on me. Wait, how are you dismissing something I literally verified? I actually read. So you reading? Is the account? But you ain't read that in there. You did not read. Oh, let's read that. Somebody pull up UTMA 2154 stat 178. Let's see if he understands what he's reading. UTMA 21. Y'all go over there. Let's see if he understood what he was reading. UTMA. Oh, I got my other phone right here. I'm gonna see if you understood what you're reading. Because first of all, you pulled out a statute. A statute. So he said UTMA A 21 54 stat 178. You okay? You got the Okay, do you understand what the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act is? You quoting the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. First of all, do you know what that is for? That is where I was teaching y'all about Minnesota rule of practice, Minnesota rules of practice, where about the birth certificate and everything. That really what because it's talking about land transfer of land titles and a uniform to transfer the Minors Act basically states that you have to put that you first of all you have to put realist when somebody's under let me explain it to you when somebody is under 18 years of age they can't enter into a contract. So if you can't title land or property into their name. So that property has to be held in the name of a custodian. Okay, once you reach the age of majority, which is 18 in some jurisdictions and 21 in other jurisdictions, all right, they have to bring you to court and they have to bring an authenticated birth certificate. The authenticated birth certificate is evidence that you are, and then the custodian has to have an affidavit attesting under penalty of perjury that you and this birth certificate are the same person on the birth certificate, and those are two forms of ID. All right, and then they'll transfer the property into the person's name. It's called the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. I know all about that. I didn't know that's what you was quoting. Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. You don't know what it's about. First of all, you tell me what a code of federal regulation is. Do you know what a code of federal regulation is? When you come in with a regulatory, because it's not a law that you just gave me. That's a code. That's a regulation. American National, I said that to a cop one time, and he called me a wise guy, and him and his partner tried to arrest me. I had to flee. The pigs are crooked. I mean, that don't mean nothing. You calling yourself a national if you operating in commerce, that shit don't mean anything. That's what I gotta tell y'all. Y'all trying to use non-commercial remedies in a commercial world. They don't care you calling yourself a Moor, a national, black, white. That don't matter. Everything in the system is dealing with EIN numbers and social security numbers. Everything in their system deals with that. EIN numbers and social security numbers in the public. And taxes. Abortion is private, but the courts decided in public. Well, they just decide whether or not you want to have taxpayers pay for it. That's what these people, my body, my choice, they want to argue. That's not the argument. The argument is, do we want taxpayers to pay for women to get abortions? And some states said no. So go to a state that says you can't. Ain't nobody telling you you can't have an abortion. We're just saying in this state, we don't want to support it. We think it's immoral. That is the democratic way. All right. It is a state issue. And in this state, the majority of people do not want to have the blood of abortion on their hands. And I think that is, I think any state that decides that is a great state to live in. You should be out there teaching your young women how to keep their legs closed, how to wait until they get married to get married, how to stay how to be in a respectful relationship. Those are things that need to be taught, not some quick out where you could just kill babies and act like there's no repercussion on it. Y'all act like there's no God. You can read Gene Keaton's Prison Treatise if you want to find out about probation being discharged. Because if you don't know how to discharge you discharge everything the same way. I'm not going to talk about probation no more. I talked about probation about 50 times. Y'all keep asking me about that. I have a mean attorney letter of instruction to share with you if you're interested. Okay, all right. Your AI did it? Okay, that's good. Only thing matters is what your profile says on the LexisNexis computer. No, the only thing that matters is if you know how to conduct yourself commercially in a commercial environment. That's what matters, you know. You really should read the Gene Keating. I'm gonna give y'all the best document on everybody on here should read. It's 24 pages. It's the Gene Keating transcript. You need to read the Gene Keating transcript. That was one of the first documents I read. I think that's why I never got off on like some of the stuff that y'all teach, because in the very beginning I was taught what was really going on in the courtroom, how people go in there, argue jurisdiction, never win, how they be all in jail and shit crying, you ain't got jurisdiction over me and shit like that. He was talking about that. He was talking about Jack Smith was getting arrested and everything. He keep going in the courtroom arguing that you ain't got jurisdiction over me. I was introduced to all of those like the very first time I got into all this. So the people who I was learning from, that's what they were talking about. You don't go into the courtroom arguing jurisdiction. It's all tax related. Like the very first video I ever watched was the Occult World of Commerce with Jason Whitney and uh, Jordan Maxwell. Very good. And in there, Jason Whitney was telling you it's all business. I didn't understand that at first. He kept saying it's all just business. It's all just business. And that's why I'm trying to convey all of these messages to you. I'm not the first person to come with this message. It's all business. It's all commercial. I'm not the first person, not close to being. Y'all just all got off track with all these old different dumbass processes they done polluted the water with and got you all off track and focused on what it's really all about. I can really see where they actually got some plants to come into this space and they got y'all going in all kind of different directions. Explain this to me. If the United States is a corporation, why do you think you're going to get some type of remedy outside some sort of corporate matter dealing with them when legal fictions only deal with legal fictions? I don't understand how it's just like I said, I try to come at it from a common sense perspective, not claiming I know everything. I don't know everything, but I think I got some pretty good common sense. Common sense let me know they ain't gonna let you have no damn remedy where everybody can walk through the door and do the same thing and get the same result. Common sense let me know that. I done dealt with the feds before. If you thinking that, you just don't got common sense. You're just in the wrong space. Don't even just leave. Y'all gonna be bouncing around looking for guru. All some guru gotta come for your thirsty ass to come and say, I got the answer for $1,599. I definitely got the answer. Come to my seminar. You're gonna be the motherfucker to pay him. Then we walk around talking about how gurus are motherfucking evil and shit. Try to tell folks about taking benefits and privileges. Look at what's happening now. Yep. One learned man is worth more than 1,000 followers. Yep. Yusuf, I want to talk to you about the DTCC, Pastor Tony Kane. Do I do that in your web? You can. I mean, I posted some of his stuff on here. I post Tony King shit on YouTube. Nobody listened to it. Nobody gonna listen to it. He was the only person that came out with some DTC information. People talk about DTC. You don't even hear nobody talk about the DTC either. You don't hear nobody becoming a participant on 55 Water Street, becoming a DTC participant, what the street name is, and all that. You don't hear anybody in the space because they don't talk about business. They ain't talking about securities and all of that. They talking about all this other shit, like the Pope and Pope owns you. What are you talking about, man? He said, well, if folks want a historical critique painted the politically incorrect guide to the Constitution and their politically incorrect guide to us history, U.S. history walks you through how it all became commercial. He said a politically incorrect guide to the Constitution. It says municipal securities bonds have to be filed with either of these forms, the lost security holder. So what is the security that's lost? What municipal securities are you talking about? The black pope, the gray pope, and the white one. Yeah, I know about the black pope, the white pope. Listen, I've been doing this 20 years. They've been talking about this on YouTube for like 20 years. The black pope. You can go and read, the Saint Germain Trust. That's a very, very good video they came out with a couple of years ago. I had it on my channel for a long time, but it's about the Saint Germain Trust. I'll repost it again. So y'all, he's talking about the Saint Germain Trust for a little while. Dudes was using it up in Detroit as a defense, was doing pretty good with it too. Was last Thursday class canceled? Yeah, it was canceled because I couldn't get the links up. I got to get the links back up. These niggas done took down the links and shit. Wasn't me. Wasn't my fault. Where are all the green women at? I don't know what green women. Goes back to the probate code, my friend. I read these forms and you should look them up, read them, then respond. Okay, so what are you saying that they're so you're in the crowd saying they're probating your estate. So that the straw man is a deceased individual and they probating the estate. Is that the you with that crowd? I deal with etymology, parse syntax. Okay, I don't, I know David Wynn Miller very well when he was here. I don't use any of that. I don't use none of that parse syntax grammar. Though I think it had some validity to it. I do, but I don't think it had any efficacy in the courts. That's just my opinion. It was mathematically sound though. I got a chance to read. He actually gave David Wynn Miller gave me his actual workbooks, all the books he wrote. It says David Wynn Miller is the one that created that parse syntax grammar. What are you talking about? Not David Wynn Miller. If y'all talking about parse syntax grammar, how you not talking about David Wynn Miller? Yeah, I interviewed David Wynn Miller. Y'all didn't see my interview on here? I interviewed him like 2 times. He gave me his book before he passed. How does everything going to digital change this space and how we get remedy? Well, first you can start out by find out what remedy is, so y'all can stop saying get remedy and using those colloquialisms. Like, what is a remedy? A remedy is a right, and rights are enforced through contracts. You can start there by understanding what a remedy is and how to obtain it. A remedy is a right, and rights are enforced through contract. So once you understand that, you know how to get remedy. Is there a step-by-step guide for the CPM process? No, I don't have a step-by-step guide. I mean, I got some CPN books over there you can go read. I don't teach CPN though. I just teach you need to get one, but I'm not over there teaching you how to do all that. How did David Wynn Miller die when he said he was immortal? I have no idea. I don't even know if he's really dead. To tell you the truth. Somebody just told me he was dead. I ain't got no verification or anything. Somebody just said he was. And one day, everybody was saying David Wynn Miller passed away. I didn't see any evidence of that or nothing. So I don't know if he's really gone or not. His friend said, "You talking about what's his name? Rock? What's his name? Rock? What's his name? Dude who was one of David Wynn Miller's students, Rufus. What's the dude's name?" Peace, user. Thanks for your continued content that pushes me to continue to force myself to think and seek knowledge. You're welcome. He said, no, he's a what? He's in Hawaii. No, he's a shady dude. Well, he was in Hawaii. I don't know if he's still there. I don't think he's shady. I think, listen, y'all, some of the things, I ain't gonna lie. I used to listen to David Wynn Miller, and he used to say some shit, I thought was far-fetched. I'm not even gonna lie. He'd be making claims, about talking about he did something and the world leaders all took note of it and things like that. And, but he was intelligent. I couldn't take that from him. He was extremely intelligent. So I couldn't discount it. I don't know. I don't have firsthand knowledge of anything, but it just seems some of the claims he was making just seemed far-fetched to me. And then he didn't, not to say that in the courts, I just read some cases he was involved in, and they was, saying it was a whole bunch of gobbledygook and things like that, which they do that shit. That's not saying anything either. But, I just didn't. I was looking for some type of point where I could pin somebody down with something, and I just didn't see it. Not in the way that I like to approach things. So I like to approach things. I don't try to sell dreams to people. That's one thing I don't do. I don't try to say, dream like, oh, you do these, say these magic words and all your problems gonna magically go away. I don't do that because that's not real. Because I've been through it. That's not real. I try to give people a very realistic understanding when you approach this information, what to realistically expect when you're doing this information. And you just coming in, you listening to guys, they telling you, you come in, you're gonna get your car free and clear, get your house free and clear. No, you're gonna fight. You're gonna end up going to court. You're gonna provide evidence. You're gonna learn some rules of procedure. You're gonna learn how to write a letter. You're gonna learn how to do an administrative process. You're gonna learn how to put together a negotiable instrument. You're gonna learn how to do some shit, and then defend whatever it is that you're doing. Because we're in a litigious adversarial system. So I just don't try to sell no dreams. You say, dreams. That's what a lot of people out there doing. They selling dreams. So when they switch it up, you can get adapt. Okay. Maybe it's so far-fetched, but even your stuff seemed it at first. I don't see how anything that I said was far-fetched because I'm pulling it straight out the UCC. Everything that I talk about come out the UCC. How am I saying anything far-fetched? You read the instructions to the game. The UCC is the instructions to the game. You're gonna read. You play the game. Read the instructions. It's the instructions how the game is played. You're in a world where there is no money, where every country is using negotiable instruments. Why wouldn't you study the UCC? That makes sense to me. Somebody else got their way of approaching it. That's fine, but it don't make sense to me. How you can try to say don't use the UCC, stay away from that when everything literally on planet Earth is about money, business, commerce. Everything on planet Earth is about that shit. I don't understand it. Everything. Yeah, they're not gonna put it on the record. And that's what I'm saying. They don't put the dismissals on the record, and then they'll come around and they'll say, "Well, show us where you won on the record." I'm like, nigga, they don't put that shit on the record. That's how they. But see, that's the whole game to make it. You seem like you're crazy when people come in and try to discredit you or something like that. They got a whole bunch of stuff put in place to discredit individuals. Like, oh, show us you win. I'm at the point I don't give a fuck. You can listen to me. You don't like it, go somewhere else. I'm just going to tell you because if you get arrested, you're going to find out if I was telling the truth or not. That's what I'm banking on. If you get arrested and after you get through conversating with that attorney, you find out he's not going to do shit for you, and then you come and see me. That's when most of the people come see me. Yes, my point is until one learns truth about anything, it seems to someone far-fetched. I doubt anything until I've tried it. Exactly. It was seem far-fetched to me until I got in that courtroom and asked that judge them questions. And I seen how she was reacting. That changed my whole world. Because, I was reading this shit and I was like, what? It's commercial? This what's really going on? I was reading all of that. And so my first time in court, I was in there, I was chained up. And the courtroom was packed. My friend, before I went in, I talked to him on the phone. He told me, he said, if you go into the courtroom, if it's packed, they don't respect you. If it's empty, they respect you. And I said, okay. So I go into the courtroom and the motherfucker packed. I mean, it's packed. And I'd sent a letter of rogatory to my attorney and I'd sent a notice to the judge. So they all knew how I was coming into the courtroom. Wasn't no surprises. So when I got into the courtroom, they all seemed I could tell they were nervous. He was real nervous. He even complimented me and asked me how I knew all of this stuff from that letter of rogatory I sent him. So I really didn't understand everything on the letter of rogatory. Hell, I didn't even understand what a holder in due course was. And when they had me in the courtroom. It was a county courtroom. It was like it seemed like they were having traffic court, but then they brought in all the inmates too to adjudicate them. But it was people standing up in the courtroom all around on the walls and shit. And they called me up. I'm sitting down at the table. My attorney, he say something to me. I'm thinking about what my friend said. He said, he's telling me, if it's empty, they respect it. So I'm looking around behind me and, just kind of looking in the courtroom and I'm just looking back and looking how packed it was. And the attorneys are all talking and they're holding a conversation. because they hadn't indicted me yet. And all of a sudden, I'm looking around, and the judge say, "Isn't that right, Mr. Jones?" And I looked at the judge, and back then I'd been reading where they try to get you to answer to the name, so you didn't want to answer to that name. So I was like, when she said my name, "Isn't that right, Mr. Jones?" And I looked at her. I'd been studying. I think I'd been studying. This is my first time in court. I've been studying this information. I'd say probably about 4 months max, maybe 4. But I'm thinking it's closer to 3 or 4 months. That's the long I've been studying. I had dealing with presentments and creditors with their bonds. I took chapter 4 of dealing with presentments. That's the first thing I committed to memory. And it is, I'm the holder in due course. Here's a third point intervener making a special appearance as an authorized representative for the defendant. I accept for value and return for value all the charging instruments in this matter and make my exemption as principal available for discharge of all obligations and charges connected with this case. I do not dispute any of the facts contained in the charging instrument. Please use my exemption for offset and adjustment of the public charges against the defendant and release the order of the court to me immediately. And then I said, "May I have your name, please?" And while I'm saying that, she's taking off her glasses, and she said her name. I forgot what her name was, but she said her name, and but she said Judge so and so, and I was like, I said, "Your offer of communication is accepted for value, and your dishonor is returned. Would you please state your name and not your title?" Because that's not what's written on her bond. If you get their bonds from the Secretary of State, it doesn't have Judge so and so written on there. So I'm asking her for her name because I need a name in case I want to put a lien against her, something I can put in the commercial registry, and I need that spelled out on the public record with the stenographer. So you asked them for their name. So she said, "Judge so-and-so," and I said, "Your offer of communication is accepted for value and your dishonor is returned. Would you please state your name and not your title?" And she started slamming her name tag and said, "This is my name." And I said, is that Judge so-and-so the same Judge so-and-so that's registered with the Secretary of State?" And then she said, "No, I'm not a corporation. You're not here to ask questions. I'm here to ask questions. What is your name?" And she didn't ask me my name. She just said, "Isn't that right, Mr. Jones?" So then I'm thinking in my mind, well, bitch, you never asked me what my name was. Talking about, what is my name? I said, "You're trying to get me to answer to this name." And then I just said, when she got all mad and excited, that's when I got relaxed. And I said, "Yeah, the jig is up." And I said, "I'm the holder in due course." She said, "Get him out of my courtroom. Get him out of my court." Started screaming at me. Guards came and grabbed me, took me back to the cell, threw me in the worst part of the jail they could throw me in. They moved my cell to the worst part. And from there, that's when I started my journey. That's when I was convinced I was doing the right thing, because they didn't indict me. They didn't do any of those things that they were talking about, and but they was holding me. And then here's the next thing. Okay, so while I'm in there, this professor, he works at Lockheed Martin. He was a rocket scientist. He gets arrested, and he comes in to the cell with me. And he's he's a smart guy, and I'm sitting at a table. I'm like a jailhouse lawyer. I got law books spread out all on the table. I'm over there studying and writing papers. And he come over and talk to me, want to know who I am. So we get into it, and at this time, I ain't been studying this 6 months or whatever. I'm telling everybody I know about the information. Everybody I meet, yeah, this is what's really going on in the courts. So he got arrested for doing some crack on I don't know where he was at. He got caught on his break. Niggas on drugs, and he's a damn rocket scientist. You'll be amazed at how many white professionals do heavy drugs. You'll be amazed. But anyway, so he gets on the phone. He said, "My brother is an attorney." He said, I say, "Really?" He said, yeah. He said, "Yeah." He said, "My brother's an attorney, and I'm gonna ask him if any of this shit is true." He said, and his brother had his own plane, and he's flying in. So we go over to the phones, and he calls his brother, and the phones, he let me listen. So I got my ear, and he let me listen, and he's talking to his brother, and he said, "Yeah," he says, "the guy in here got this information." He said, "I just want to know if any of it is real." Now his brother, high-powered attorney, I'm listening. This is, I swear, I don't want to say swear to God, you're not supposed to, but listen, this is word for word what was said, this man said. He said, it was his brother. He said this guy has this information in here talking about, you know, the secret commercial processes of the courts and all this. He said, I just want to know if it's real. This is what his brother said. He said, hell yeah, it's real. How the fuck? No. He said, how the fuck did he get that in there? And he said, I don't know. I just want to know it's real. He said, hell yeah, it's real. He said, but they can hold him up to a year. Ask him if he want to sue. This his brother told me that. I'm hearing this with my own 2 ears. And the attorney wrote. Now, people ask you for all the time for like proof. Let me talk about proof for a second, for all the people who want proof. Okay, I understand why you would want proof. All right, but what you have to understand is this ain't the space for it. It's not designed. If you coming in here looking for proof, you don't understand what you're dealing with. You don't understand what you're dealing with. All right, it's not that kind of a game where you can go in and do something on video and then come out and then let everybody on YouTube see it. And yeah, I got the remedy and I got to win. Y'all playing the wrong game. You playing the wrong game. You shouldn't even be on those videos at all. You shouldn't be on the videos at all. All right, you're just playing the wrong game. It's fun. I know it's exciting. It's nice to have the attention and everything, but you're just going down the wrong road. All right, you're supposed to be in and out in less than 5 minutes. None of this shit is supposed to be on the record. You're not supposed to be alerting the public. It's a private process. That's the approach that you're supposed to be thinking. You're not supposed to be using any statutes whatsoever. Every time somebody throw a statute at me, code this, that, I'm like, okay, you don't know what you're doing. You looking at the wrong thing. Everything we do on the private side is through contract. It's through contracts. It's just that when you go, you have to go through it to see the truth of it. That's all I can say. It's like I keep telling you this story about the devil. It's like, when, it's like you think Lucifer exists, all right, the devil, but you've never met the devil before. But people keep telling you, yeah, the devil exists. Okay, but then finally one day you in a private, you may be in your room or somewhere, and he walk in, he start talking to you. And now you just confirm that this motherfucker exists. And then he leave. And then you come out and you start a YouTube video like I'm doing right now. Y'all won't believe what happened to me. I met the devil. Listen, man, I met the devil. This nigga had a pitchfork. He had a half goat, half body. This nigga was red and he had a pitchfork. He was telling me everything. This nigga was telling me everything about shit I was doing when I was 5 years old. I barely remember the shit. He know all about my life and everything. And I'm sitting here explaining this to you. You're going to have people in the audience, trolls. This bitch ass nigga is lying. He's lying. Ask him what the devil told him. Ask him, did the devil ask him he took a picture. Nigga, why you didn't take a picture of the devil? You ain't gonna be saying that in the audience, right? Okay, so you sitting here, you're trying to, your whole world has changed now because you have confirmed that the devil exists. So nobody can convince you anything any different. You got Satanists out there saying he's lying, or you got other people out there saying lying devil don't really exist. He's lying. You got people out there saying all this shit to you, but you met the devil. So there's nothing nobody can do to change your mind. So your whole life has changed. You become more religious because now the devil has presented itself to you. So you looking at the Bible closer, you reading verses, everything about you has changed. And you trying every day, you devoted your life to warning other people about the devil. And then when you go out there and start talking about the devil, old people start calling you religious nut job. They start giving you names and shit like that. But there's only going to be one group of people that's going to agree with you. And those are the people who met the devil as well. They're going to be coming to you and saying, man, I met him too, man. He said that same shit to me. And you're going to know that the devil is constantly meeting new people. So your approach to it is going to be, okay, fuck all these people that's looking for proof. I'm going to talk to the people that when they do meet the devil, I can prepare them for the meeting because I know there are going to be other people that are going to meet him. So I don't have no proof that I met this motherfucker, but I'm just going to tell you information, okay? I ain't, and even if I sell nothing, it ain't gonna be expensive. It's gonna be $49. I ain't doing no $1,500, $3,000, nothing like that. I'm gonna do $49 or something like that, and I'm gonna teach you all the shit that I learned, how to use, defenses against this, how you use psychic self-defense and all the how this motherfucker come and all this shit right here. But I'm just doing this because I really don't have any proof of what it is I encountered, but I know that if I tell you this and when you finally encounter him, you're gonna come back to me and you ain't gonna look at me the same way. You're like, look, man, I met him and everything you said, that's exactly the way it fucking happened. And that's why I got followers and everything, because that's what happens to them. They go in there and they see like, man, that shit went word for word what you said. I'm like, yeah, that's how that's gonna go. So that's what my approach to it, because I've been doing this a long time. So when I started doing this, we were everybody had their own little groups. Like I only had like me and two other guys who knew this information. That's the only people I knew that knew it. Just me and two other people. So it's not like today how y'all got Facebook groups, y'all got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got all this stuff, y'all all talking about it on all these platforms. Back then, the only people we had was Angela Stark, who was on Talk Shoe. She would get the gurus, and then she would do a phone interview with them on Talk Shoe, and then we would listen to that. That would be our really only connection to gurus that we had, was Angela Stark Talk Show, or if we found out about if they were doing a seminar somewhere and you got a chance to come to a seminar, which I never went to anybody's seminar. When I came into this, Tim Turner and Tony King were at the top of the game, and they were like worship, especially Tony King. Well, shit, Tim Turner probably worshiped too. Tim Turner was charging $7,000 for his package. I don't know how much Tony King was charging for his, but they was all charging a grip for shit. So I came in, when I came in, I had studied the administrative process and discharge, and, I just started teaching secure party. I charged $150. Back then when niggas was charging $3,500 was the minimum. So the people who come at me and they talk about how much I charge and shit like that, I'm the person who got the prices down, all right? Because all the prices when I came on the scene nothing was under $3,500, especially if you wanted somebody to do some paperwork. And when I came in, it was $10,000. So the mindset that I have is I'm coming from that era. You bitch ass niggas on here complaining about $49, you need to go motherfucking fuck yourself and shut the fuck up. You is just a broke bitch. Shut up. God, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed, man. You should be embarrassed coming out on the internet and I'm talking about somebody charging for something. You should be embarrassed. And they do this full time. There's no, you're not living off promissory notes. You're not going to write promissory notes and go to the groceries. It's just the ridiculousness that got incorporated into all of this. Y'all allowed it to fester and grow, and where people actually try to use some of this ridiculous shit as defenses, or try to, or some kind of way try to discredit you in some kind of way, when you don't understand how this shit work, man. This shit is, you get behind the scenes, there is not a single person that disagrees with me ever been arrested by the feds. Ain't nobody finna disagree with me being arrested by the feds. Nobody. It's only the bitch ass niggas, they ain't never been arrested. Let me tell you, you know the number one indicator a person ain't never been arrested by the feds? The motherfuckers walking around talking about we ain't gotta pay taxes. Get rid of the government. The government is evil. Y'all following all those people on the internet, they say that, you don't have to pay any taxes. The government is evil. Let's get rid of the government. All that they already labeling you as an anti-government organization. You see these people in the comment section, they either a plant or they ignorant as fuck. They don't understand what we're doing or what we're talking about. They're trying to associate yourself with this bullshit, with this fucking terrorist group and things like, you don't have any, this is business. This is business. We talking about promissory notes and negotiable instruments and banking. What the fuck does that got to do with terrorism or dismantling the government, or if you're white or you're black or my status and things? What does it got to do with that? The securities courts register with the forms listed. You can consider, they got with the court registry investment system. I know all about it. I know they assign CUSIP numbers to case numbers, but what does that have to do with you resolving your issue? I don't care what they do behind the scenes. That's why you need to understand what a holder and a holder in due course is. It's not for me to understand what they do behind the scenes. I only need to know the rules that govern presentments and commerce. That's what I'm interested in. If I present them with a negotiable instrument, I don't care what they do with it behind the scenes. I just need to know they got it and they got liability on it. That's all I need to know. We might be filing bankruptcy for a negative thing in your opinion based off your knowledge. I think, I don't, well, if you're filing bankruptcy, depending on what you're doing it for, but yeah, filing bankruptcy can be used as a defense. If you go into an adversarial proceeding, like if you're doing it on a foreclosure, it could be a good last defense, especially if you're in an emergency situation, and then you file bankruptcy, it's going to put a stay on it, an automatic stay. And then when you get the stay, you take them into an adversarial proceeding where you make them prove their standing. I mean, it can be used as a technique, Bankruptcy definitely is a tool that can be used, especially if you learn how to do an involuntary bankruptcy and label somebody as a creditor in possession, like in the case of the United States when they refused to discharge a criminal case. What might file in bankruptcy? Let's see, it says, if you see A for V in court, do you need to file a bond with it? You're always supposed to put in a bond. You're always supposed to put in a bond on any case that you're in. At least that's how they do it in admiralty, So how to use it, how I said earlier, he asking the right questions and then obviously accepting for settlement and closure. I didn't offer the stuff as it is for us to use, just information tools. I'm not understanding that. Oops in the movement, injunction. So a promissory note can be written on the back of a napkin with a registered mail number. Well, you tell me. When you go to Article 3, anywhere in Article 3 of the UCC, does it say what kind of paper that a negotiable instrument had to be written on? I mean, does it say in the instructions that a promissory note has to be written on typing paper or bond paper or, doesn't say it in the instructions. I didn't see it in the instructions. I heard filing bankruptcy is part of the journey, but not Chapter 11, but Chapter 11, Chapter 2. I don't know, you got what, Chapter 13, Chapter 11, and Chapter 7. You got a reorganization, a liquidation, and one of them is a corporate reorganization, isn't it? What is 11? I know 13 is reorganization, Chapter 7 is a liquidation, and Chapter 11, I forgot what 11 was. What is 11? Well, at least the only reason I can think people want the government to be bad so they can be good, but truth is there's no good or bad. I get with that. So we don't use the CFRs, the United States codes at all. No, why would you? If you're in equity. And you're dealing with contracts. Contract makes the law. Creditors don't file bankruptcy in my mind. Can we verify? I agree with you on that. I agree that creditors don't. I agree with you 100%. Creditors do not file bankruptcy. That's just like when you're in a federal case and they try to get you to fill out a form of pauperous. I don't think creditors fill out a form of pauperous either. That's a poverty affidavit. The federal courts try to get you to sign in case, you can't pay any money to do a filing. They want you to do a form of pauperous. They want you to sign an affidavit saying that you're indigent. That's what I wouldn't sign, Gene did an international bill of exchange in prison and bumped up his Social Security retirement check. I don't understand what that is. Only use statutes at large as the only law. I use statutes if I'm looking for a public remedy at law. Peace, guy. How would you avoid jury duty? Tell them that you believe in jury nullification. That'll probably get you out. Tell them you believe in jury nullification. Peace, guy. How would you? Facts, equity is the like between the commercial and real if there is no way but statute. So what are the a CFR is a code of federal regulation. And United States codes is just what it says. That's the federal codes. And code of federal regulations is the regulations that the agencies use. All of it is public. That's all. That's everything in the public. We talk about private processes. There's a difference in public and private. They don't mix. You're either all right or you're not right at all. If you're going to use public, use public. You can use codes and statutes, but you can't use a private process. You have to use one or the other is all I'm trying to say. You know, if you're going to use statutes, use statutes. You're going to use private process, use a private process. You can't mix them. You can't mix them together. All right, y'all, I got to get off. I appreciate the, what y'all give me? I'll come back on a little bit later. I'm gonna do a natural law hour. How about that? Y'all trying to make these minor accounts, and that's not, it isn't any money. There's no money. There's no money. So I can go to court and pay for my speeding ticket with a napkin. All right, well, he don't know what he's doing. He said pay for something, so you don't know what you're doing. All right, two different games, guy. As soon as I use the word pay, they don't know what they're doing. All right, y'all. I'll come back later. Peace to the gods. What time? How long? I was on here an hour and 30 minutes. I'll come back in a little bit, all right? Peace to the gods. Excellent.